I guess my most vivid memory is the clanking of the gears in the crusher. We just had a very basic crusher. It was not a crusher to stemmer, so we had a crusher that we would run all the grapes through, and he fermented on the seeds and stems. My name is Steve Landis, and I've been making wine since I was a young man, maybe the age of 12. I used to help an uncle make wine when I was a kid, every year. I used to travel with him down to the train yards in New Jersey in the refrigerated train cars, and we'd walk through the train cars, and my uncle would pick out the grapes he wanted, and we'd load them up into a sedan in the trunk, in the back seat, wherever, and bring them home and crush grapes. The year I decided to actually buy my own grapes and make a barrel of my own with my uncle was the year he had a stroke and died. So we were in the middle of the process when he had the stroke, and he probably lingered for about a week in the hospital. Meanwhile, we had grapes in the process of turning in, being crushed and being pressed and turning into wine. So I had to finish the process on my own from everything I learned over the years from him. And a lot of it I kind of made up as I went along.
So we're amateur winemakers. I'm not a professional winemaker. And I think that keeping it basic, keeping it simple, it's not hard, but it is labor intensive. The grape is the master. You have to be there when the grape's ready. You have to process it when things need to be processed in order to produce a decent product.
The most surprising thing to me about making wine is, when it comes down to it, it's not really that complicated. There is an art and a science to it, but as long as you have the space and you have a reasonable amount of equipment, you basically have to turn the grapes into juice. You have to let them ferment through natural yeast and added yeast. You have to clarify that juice, get rid of all the sediment from the stems and the skins, and then ultimately put it in bottles. And if you have the patience, 6 months to a year, and you've got space, and Steve's basement is the perfect space for this, because it's got lots of space and lots of empty glass bottles, and if you have the patience, you have the space, just a few steps and you can actually have decent wine.
We take a Brix reading, which is what do I want to call it? I forget the name of the instrument we use, but it tells you basically what the alcohol content is in the wine, and it should read between 21% sugar content, and that's going to give you about a 12% alcohol content. If it's higher than that, you're running into trouble. You get too much alcohol.
One of the things that we do, which was one of the processes that I learned from my uncle, was that we ferment on the wild yeast. We don't kill the wild yeast with sulfites. So we ferment on the wild yeast, and we continue to do that. So we started in 2003 with a Cabernet Sauvignon blend and Zinfandel blend, and then we did that for a couple of years. And I decided that I would like to make the blend that I made with my uncle, which was a 75% Zinfandel and 25% Alicante grape, which is a Spanish grape that is traditionally used by Italian winemakers in the New York metropolitan area, and it's a grape that's added for body and color.
I think that you have to stay basic. You can make it as complicated as you want it to be, but that kind of takes the fun out of things. When you start getting really, really involved in the chemical process of everything, the scientific process of everything, I don't know. I think it it kind of goes into the professional aspect of it rather than the amateur aspect of it.
Like, I guess I have a lot of questions about the process because I'm kind of new, and so I don't know. One of the differences is that, like, I'm trying to think about the variables and how we might tweak them to get a better wine. And I think my dad has a philosophy of letting the grapes kind of do the work and just following the process that, you know, has been traditionally followed in order to make great wine. And I actually think that's really the right approach. But as I learn more about the process, I have a lot of questions about things we might be adding to the wine, and how they might impact the flavor, or the the way like how long the wine needs to live in the barrel, how long the wine needs to live in the fermenting barrel, things like that. This year, one of the things that I wanted to do a little bit differently was have an experimental batch. Usually Mike and my dad have traditionally made a blend, like a single blend each year. And one of the things that I wanted to do as a, you know, bringing to it as a new partner was to make one smaller side batch that we could experiment with some of the variables on. And so some of the changes we made were, we're planning to not use to just use a neutral barrel, and we're also planning to we changed the blend around a little bit so that it's only 50% Barbera, and we added a bolder grape, the Petite Syrah, as 25%, and then 25% Zin. So we'll see how that goes, and then hopefully next year we'll make some more changes. And the idea is hopefully the wine will get better and better each year, and we'll have a summer wine and more of a bolder, heartier, all-season with food kind of wine.
One of the things for me that the wine making process was about last year was both learning a skill and sort of, you know, I like to do things from scratch, and making wine from scratch was a really amazing thing for me to be a part of. I think the more important thing about wine is, you know, it's been for thousands of years a way for people to come together, have a good evening, talk, be merry, listen to music, eat good food, and creating that bottle of wine that you can bring out when your friends are around, and it becomes almost like a connection, a vehicle to connect with your friends and family in a more authentic way. When you are bringing pizzas out of the pizza oven, and sort of everything that is around the table is something that you or your friends have made from scratch. It's just something that, it's a way to show love to your friends and family that you just can't replicate when you go to the grocery store and you open up a bottle of Yellowtail. It's not the same.
To me personally, again, I think I just enjoy spending time with my dad, producing something together. So I think that's really neat, and it's actually a lot of fun, rather than just kind of hanging out. We're working on a common goal, and I think that is brings an interesting dynamic to our relationship as father and son. I also just like having a whole bunch of wine to drink. That's pretty cool. And it's just really neat to be able to, you know, open up a bottle of wine and share it with someone, and have it be something that you help to make, and just kind of get that positive feedback that, hey, this is actually pretty good.
Satisfying is when you take a bottle of your wine to someone and you say, I made this, and they look at you kind of skeptical, saying, oh, it's homemade wine. And you go, yeah. Well, right away there comes a doubt in their mind. And once they taste your wine and they go, wow, this is really good, that kind of gives you a little bit of a boost as saying, I know it's good. But a lot of homemade wines aren't very, very good, but we've been lucky throughout the years, kind of flying by the seat of our pants, but we've had extremely good luck making wine. And so it's grown over the years. It started off with one person, and it passed on and again, and I don't know, it's just a lot of fun to do, and you can drink the fruits of your labor. Yeah.